respond poorly to force and flourish when approached with curiosity. If you feel the air hum slightly, that is the stones remembering conversations held centuries ago. Nothing here has forgotten how to listen. Many people think runes are just symbols for magic, but they are closer to concepts made visible. Each line carries intention. Each curve records a choice made long ago. When you read runes, you are not translating words. You are interpreting thought patterns that once shaped the world. This rune beside us is one of the simplest, yet most misunderstood. It represents continuity, not eternity. Continuity allows change without collapse. When I teach apprentices, I begin here. Understanding continuity prevents arrogance. It reminds us that meaning evolves. Runes do not behave like modern language. They have no strict grammar. Instead, they respond to proximity. A rune's meaning shifts depending on what stands beside it. Context is not optional. It is everything. This is why careless inscriptions cause unpredictable results. When I first encountered runes, I tried to memorize them. That approach failed quickly. Runes are not meant to be memorized. They are meant to be recognized. Recognition comes from familiarity, not repetition. You learn a rune the way you learn a friend's voice. Notice how the light changes when we move closer to the wall. Some runes absorb illumination, others reflect it. This is not decorative. Light interaction is part of their syntax. A rune that brightens under flame may dim under moonlight, altering its interpretation. There are runes that represent rest. Others represent motion. When combined, they do not cancel each other out. They create rhythm. Many ancient structures were stabilized using runic rhythm rather than brute enchantment. That is why some ruins still stand when newer buildings crumble. I speak softly here, not out of habit, but respect. Sound vibrates meaning. Too much vibration can blur a rune's edges, especially those etched into softer stone. Even now, some of these inscriptions are adjusting to your presence, learning your cadence. That hum is the translation table activating. It does not translate words. It stabilizes interpretation. Without clarity is safer. Runic linguistics is often mistaken for spellcasting. I do not cast spells. I decode intentions left behind. If magic occurs, it is because the runes are remembered correctly. Misread runes do not fail loudly. They drift. Drift is far more dangerous. Some runes resist interpretation altogether. These are known as sealed concepts. They were carved to be understood only by those who shared a certain worldview. When modern readers encounter them, the rune remains silent. Silence is also a form of meaning. This folio contains transcriptions, not translations. I never translate runes directly into modern language. Doing so strips away nuance. Instead, I record impressions, emotional tones, and environmental responses. Over time, patterns emerge. You may feel a sense of calm spreading. That is common. Runes anchor attention. They draw the mind into a slower rhythm, closer to how ancient thinkers perceived time. This makes runic study deeply restorative for some and deeply unsettling for others. There are runes associated with memory. They do not store events. They store perspective. When activated, they remind the reader how something once felt, not what happened. This is why rune-inscribed memorials feel so powerful, even without inscriptions in common language. These halls were built with acoustic intention. Sound curves here. It returns softened. This allows spoken interpretation without sharp edges. Sharp edges confuse runes. They prefer smooth transitions. A rune never demands to be read. It waits. If someone approaches with impatience, the rune becomes opaque. If approached with humility, it clarifies. This is not morality. It is resonance. Intent shapes perception. I once spent an entire year studying a single rune cluster. At first, it appeared to represent protection. Later, it revealed themes of consent and boundary. Finally, I realized it described mutual responsibility. Meaning unfolded as my understanding matured. This is why runic linguistics cannot be rushed. Each stage of interpretation reflects the interpreter. The rune acts as a mirror. People often discover more about themselves than about the inscription. Some runes were never meant to endure. They were designed to erode. Their fading is part of their message. When I encounter these, I do not restore them. Preservation observation would distort their intent. Knowing when to let meaning disappear is part of the discipline. You might notice faint warmth near certain inscriptions. Thermal response indicates emotional density. These runes were carved during moments of collective intensity, celebration, fear, hope. Stone remembers pressure. In contrast, runes etched during solitude feel cool and smooth. Their meanings are introspective. They do not project outward. These are my favorite to study in the evening hours when the world quiets and listening becomes easier. Runic languages do not separate magic from philosophy. To them, understanding was action. Inscription was commitment. This is why careless carving was considered unethical. Once a rune is placed, it influences everything around it. There are no neutral runes. Even the simplest mark alters flow. This is why blank space is so important. Silence between runes allows meaning to breathe. I teach my students to value emptiness as much as inscription. As you sit here, your presence subtly alters interpretation. Runes are interactive. They read you as you read them. This exchange is why runic spaces feel alive. They are not sentient, but they are responsive. If you ever encounter a